No cap sauce. We pour it so you can drip. With producer Dwayne Omar.
No cap sauce, where we pour so you can drip. Welcome to No Cap Sauce. This is season 1, episode 7, and this show is entitled Will Smith Loves Chris Rock. Many of you have chimed in on my Facebook page and my Instagram page with your opinions of the Oscars and who you think was wrong, who you think was right. If you were in Will Smith's predicament, would you have done the same thing? If you were in Chris Rock's predicament, would you have retaliated or would you have done what he did? And I received a lot of interesting comments and feedback, and I want to thank you in advance. I promised that I would give my take on it, and I will at towards the end of this, but I just wanted to reflect on a few things. During some of my unbiased research, as well as reflecting on relationships I have in Hollywood with people that have worked for Will Smith, the common denominator that keeps coming up is people keep pointing to the open relationship that Jada Pickett Smith and Will Smith have admitted to in public. They point to Will Smith's book and the revelations at the table talk, Red Table, I believe it's called, Round Table. Forgive me for not knowing. I don't really watch it, but and how Jada admitted to having an entanglement with August Alsina, a recording artist. I know him because my daughters listened to him back in the day. So there was one comment that I received on Facebook that was actually pretty poignant. It said, Will was cool with her being up under old dude, but he couldn't take a joke or something like that. So anyway, people have very strong opinions and very strong comments, and everyone has a right to feel the way they feel about any given situation.
No cap.
This show is sponsored once again by Sonia Lee Robinson, author of Counting Your Blessings Journal. Cop that from Amazon. Thank you to her, and thank you for watching. Will Smith, for close to 40 years, has been a darling of the industry. You know, the Fresh Prince, come on, many of us in my age range grew up on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And we seen his movies, even the ones that I like, where he played a superhero. He was like a alcoholic superhero. I forget what it was called, but that was my movie. I know he had other ones, Enemy of the State. He had a lot of great movies. Had a few flops, but when you put out that level of content, just like a recording artist, eventually you're going to put out something that only you and your family think is tight. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, we're not used to Will Smith, even in his music and his rap records. We're not used to hearing him curse. We're not used to hearing him use any kind of profanity or really any extreme violence. So it was shocking to see Will Smith walk up and pimp slap somebody. And I know the younger generation has a different take on this, but us OGs, we know one of the most humiliating things you can do to a grown man is slap him in the face, because where most of us grew up That was synonymous with a pimp slapping his hoe. And or for those who need a little lighter tone, slapping his lady of the night. So that was like, the ultimate disrespect. And to add insult to injury, it happened in front of the whole world. And it will become a staple in comedic content going forward. We all have already seen some of the memes coming out. Someone had a meme that First Lady showed me yesterday with a picture of Jesse Smollett saying, Will slap me too. That was funny. But anyway, excuse me. So it's going to be a staple. It's one of those things that happen and you don't forget. Just like after the OJ trial, people would use it to threaten somebody. Don't make me OJ you. Well, now they're going to be saying, don't make me Will Smith you. But anyway, that was not something we were used to coming from him. Now, if that were somebody like, say, 50 Cent walked up and slapped somebody, it's a good chance that before he made it back to his seat, security would have tackled him, and he would have been arrested, and we'd be reading about him in jail with no bail or something like that. So Hollywood, they have their picks, they have their clicks, and it's not because 50 is a lesser star. That's not the point. It's because people like who they like, and they take their picks. And although 50 is an accomplished and notable artist all the way around, producer, writer, mogul, all that, they know him for having a rough edge. And because of that, that would be their opportunity to make an example out of him, where they have to negotiate, and I'm sure behind the scenes there's a lot of politics going on. What are we going to do with Will? Because if we let this stand, then what, and plus, not to mention the fact it's the first time the Oscars had that much color in it. And it's almost like someone trying to send a message. You let some colored folk produce the Oscars, and this is what we get. And we all know it has nothing to do with that. But they can spin it that way if they want to. This is producer Dwayne O'Mine. This is No Cap Sauce, where we pour it so you can drip. So getting back to this Will Smith, Chris Rock incident, one thing that I noticed when I watched it, and I watched it as it was taking place, and I also watched the playback, and I could read lips. When Chris Rock first made the joke, which I thought was kind of lighthearted, unless he knew that she had that medical condition, I think it's called alopecia. But Will laughed at the joke. And then the camera cut away from him and cut to Jada and then back to Chris, and then you see Chris saying, uh-oh, or oh boy, or here he comes, or something like that. Will first laughed at the joke. Did y'all see that? Comment below if you did. He laughed first. But I think the thought set in, when I get home, I'm going to hear it, because I was laughed at in front of the whole world, and you let somebody disrespect me with a condition that I have no control of. If he, being a husband, I understand there's some things that when you get back home, you're gonna have to deal with. You'd rather go slap somebody and lose an award, So I sitting in Will Smith's seat for a minute, I'm thinking, I have a couple of trains of thought. Let me tell you what they are. Number one is, it was funny if you ever seen the movie G.I. Jane. I know of the movie, but I never watched it. I tried to watch it. I couldn't get past 15 minutes of it because it didn't hold my attention. That's not my kind of movie. And most people, including myself, thought Jada was just rocking the low haircut because she's just rocking a low haircut. Because she can do that. She's Jada. But when Will laughed, and then I seen Jada's face there was nothing funny about that to her. That hurt her. I don't think it made her mad. I think it made her sad. And him knowing his wife, when he looked at her, he imagined, what kind of man would I be if I allow someone to verbally assault my woman in public and me not do something about it? Now, of course, at that point, it was reckless abandon. Forget about the Oscar that I may or may not be able to take. Forget about what people think about me. I'm going to slap the you-know-what out of this you-know-what. And he did that. I can't say that I would have did anything different. God's still working on me. But on the other hand, when I look at Chris, now Chris could have knuckled up and slapped him back, because me personally, my reflexes would not allow anybody to get that close to me without me striking him. So after being struck, and just on my reflexes, just not reaching out and touch them, you know, like the song, reach out and touch somebody's hand, but in this case, somebody's jaw. But anyway, big ups to Chris Rock, because I know at the end of the day, what looks like a bad thing will turn out for his good. If I were on the pulpit preaching right now, I would say that that whole incident is nothing but a seed to a huge harvest, because you exemplified what a black man does in the midst of a trial in the presence of others. He could have been what they expect us to be, or he could have fall back, take it on the chin, and deal with it like an intelligent man, which they didn't expect. It's almost as if it was a setup. But I know there were many that thought it was a setup because the Oscars are boring. I even had someone say something about the Oscars are boring, and this is one Oscar that people will be talking about, and this will trend. That's true. But you can't fake embarrassment. You can't fake pain or hurt, no matter how great of an actor you are. You just can't. I believe that Will Smith was well in his right to feel the way he felt after he seen the hurt on his wife's face and possibly felt it. But at the same time, because he is who he is and what that show represented that night, it wasn't the best choice. Now he has to be on an apology tour, an apology campaign, you know, trying to make sure that some of the people that used to love on him don't look at him, oh, he's just another angry black man. He fooled us for years. Because, you know, if they can paint him that way, they will. So that is one side of it. Now, I'm going to speak from another perspective that I believe is also valid. Number one is, there had to be a certain amount of calculation on Will Smith's part. Because I know some comedians that he would not have walked up and slapped. He would not have went and slapped Joe Torrey. Joe Torrey would have laid one on him. He would not have gone up and slapped Steve Harvey, because Steve Harvey would have hit him back. And more than just hit him back. Steve Harvey got some goons. Are you listening to me? He would not have went up and slapped D.L. Hughley, in my opinion, because D.L. would have put something on him as well. See, there are people who practice and train to be tough in movies, but in real life, it's a whole nother game. He would not have walked up and slapped the late Charlie Murphy, because Charlie was no punk. Are you listening to me? So my point is, I don't believe, regardless of how he felt, he would have walked up and slapped some of the people that I named, because he would not have been able to walk away with his back turned. Trust and believe. I know one thing, it was me. They wouldn't have to worry about giving me my Oscar award, because I would have acted up so bad up in that joint. And I'm not saying I would be right, but as a man, you're not gonna lay hands on me, verbally assault my wife, and think you can walk away from me with your back turned. I don't think so.
No cap.
You wouldn't have made it to the seat. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm keeping it 100. He wouldn't have made it to the seat. And that Oscar, they might have, man, let me tell you something. Somebody would have caught a case that night, and somebody would have caught possibly a ride to the hospital. Because there are certain things you just can't condone. I grew up in the Jamaica Plain Projects in Boston, and we had to fight. I was fighting since I was 9 years old, and because I was tall for my age, I always had to fight people bigger than me and older than me. You know, I was tall, but I was still young. You know, my muscles hadn't really started developing until I was about 13, 14, and I was fighting kids that age when I was 9 and 10. First person, and this is why I know a slap is more humiliating than a punch.
Subscribe to this channel, like this video, smash the bell.
I'll tell the story where I was taking a nap during the summer. I don't think AC was in this front room, so I was kind of, had like pajamas on. I was 9 years old, and it was near the front of the apartment, and I was in this room that we called the little room. It really wasn't a bedroom because it didn't have a closet, but it was like an extra room in a 3-bedroom apartment on Columbus Ave in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I was laying on the bed, which was more like a cot. It wasn't my bedroom. It was just like a place we hung out, played video games or whatever when we didn't want to be in our room, So the smell of marijuana was coming in. This is way before these cannabis stores, before it was legal. And there were some teenagers, probably 16, 17, 18 years old, sitting on the front stoop. And some of y'all that grew up in the suburbs, you don't know what a stoop is. But it's some stairs, some concrete stairs, usually concrete. Sometimes they have railings, sometimes they don't, but these didn't have railings. And the smell of marijuana was coming inside the apartment. And I heard my mother tell, it was about 8 or 9 kids out there, get from in front of my window smoking that stuff. And I heard someone say, after she said it a couple of times, someone said, "Shut up, you black biatch," something like that, right? I jumped up, 9 years old. I ran out the door with my t-shirt on and the pajama bottoms, no shoes. And there was one guy, this Hispanic guy, had a silver, like a silver shirt or coat or something on. We called him Silver Coat because it seemed like he always wore it. But I noticed it was summertime, so it might have been like a jersey or something, knockoff jersey. And he was the one looking towards my mother's window, smiling. And because the person that said it had a bit of an accent, I assumed it was him. And I ran up on him. I clocked him in his jaw and knocked him up under a pickup truck that was right there. It was almost like a David and Goliath thing. I was a little 9-year-old boy, but I was defending the honor of my mother. Meanwhile, she's screaming. They called me Wayne. Wayne, come back here, Wayne. Because she thought I was about to get wrecked by all them teenagers, right? I'm 90, like 16, 17, 18, whatever, right? There's a bunch of them out there. They scattered. When I came out there with that rage and that fury, defending my mother's honor, and that dude, one punch, he went out and slid up under the truck. I don't know how I knocked him up under a truck, but he slid up under the truck. And I stood out there and I looked around like, who's next? They was gone, they ran. I never had to fight in that neighborhood going forward for my whole 10 years that I lived in that neighborhood. Why? Because I was known as the one that you don't talk about his family, particularly his mother. So how much more was the embarrassment of having your wife humiliated on the world stage? How much more was Will in that headspace? Like, you see what I'm saying? So I submit that although I don't think he should get a pass, because if he gets a pass, it sends a message, well, if Will can do it, and someone say, well, I'm more famous than him, or I'm at least as famous as him, or I'm definitely tougher than him, or whatever the case may be. Imagine Mike Tyson. Imagine if somebody, it didn't have to be Chris Rock, it could be anybody. It could be Corey Holcomb, it could be, Alan Sandler. anybody make a joke about someone, we can't have a war on comedians. They've already pushed them into certain corners, canceling them if they don't like the jokes and all that kind of stuff. And what makes something funny is because there's some truth tied to it. So we can't go there, or else that industry is done. And those that have now become fringe will become the mainstream, kind of like what David Chappelle is doing. So anyway, I don't think Will should get a pass. I'm not going to go as far as to say that they should take back his Oscar, because the Oscar came from the work. It had nothing to do with the fight. But what would happen if Mike Tyson went up and slapped a comedian for saying something they didn't like? Because you can get a lot of jokes off Mike Tyson, a lot of them. Mike would have left there in handcuffs. So at the very least, I think Will's pockets should get hit. As a reminder, the next time you're feeling some kind of way, handle it a different way. And because think about what he did to Chris Rock. The slap wasn't that big of a deal in terms of injuring Chris physically, because you notice Chris didn't fall. Anybody I ever slapped, they hit the ground. And it was more than my handprint was on their face, the nose was broken, lip bust. No, it's almost like he shook it off like a G. But the reputation in some circles, there'll forever be a stigma. Chris, man, I understand all that political correct stuff, and I understand about, not messing with your money type thing, but man, you looking like a punk. But those of us that are mature understand that he exercised self-control. Because for a second, it looked like he was about to draw back. But then, being the professional he is, he flipped it and turned that into a joke and kept it moving. Shook him a teeny bit, but it would shake anybody if you weren't expecting it. So anyway, that is, there's one more point I'd like to make. And I'm not taking the side of Will, but I'm also not going to bash him. I'm just going to say this. I believe he slapped Chris Rock not for that joke. I understand that they have been the butt end of several jokes, not just at the hands of Chris Rock, but other comedians. But I believe, like any pressure cooker, all the years of all the comments, the innuendos, the rumors about Will Smith and him being told, don't mess with your money, stay over here, don't cross this line. I think it built up, and Chris Rock got slapped for all the people that Will Smith can't slap.
No cap sauce. We pour it so you can drip. With producer Dwayne Omar.